In this video, we'll be taking a look at 2 college basketball games happening on December 8th, 2025, and providing you with free team picks and total picks for each one of those games, so 4 picks in total. Welcome back to Cash Out Sports. Let's dive right into it. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe and to click the bell icon to get notified as soon as these videos get released, so that you have more time to plan out your bets as we provide these videos on a daily basis. I can guarantee that you'll have all the important information that you'll need on these 2 college basketball games after fully watching this video. One more thing before we start: if you would like to gain access to our best exclusive sports picks to take your journey to the next level, then check out our Patreon in the link down below, where we offer our best single picks, parlay picks, and much more. Now let's get started. Lafayette versus Penn. Let's head over to the Palestra in Philadelphia, where finals week stress mixes with point spread nerves and everyone pretends they are still focused on textbooks. On the surface, Penn looks like the adult in the matchup. New coach, a loud and historic home gym, and some early season blowouts that look great in a quick glance at the schedule. If you just skim the box scores, it is easy to think this is a solid handle your business and win big at home favorite. But once you peel that back a little, the profile starts to wobble more than the line suggests. They are coming off back-to-back double-digit losses, a 77-60 defeat at home to Hofstra and a 90-63 beating from Villanova in the Big Five Classic Final, and those are the kind of results that leave a mark. Their overall scoring margin on the year sits at only plus 1.2 per game, with about 79.8 scored and 78.6 allowed, which is more coin flip with a bit of polish than comfortably win by 8 or more on command. On the other side, Lafayette walks in with a record of 3-7, which looks ugly if you just see the numbers and shrug. But that record is carrying a lot of context and a lot of bumps. They have been sent into true road games at St. Joseph's, Texas, and West Virginia. Plus, they played in a neutral-style tournament right in their own gym, which is a strange mix of familiar floor and tournament pressure. They have already taken their lumps from Texas, survived that kind of beatdown that can either rattle a team or harden it, then turned around and squeezed Ball State into a 55-37 rock fight. Most recently, they handled Mercyhurst 79-71, riding a 24-point night from Caleb Williams, so this is not a group that goes quietly. In terms of style, Lafayette plays slower and uglier than Penn, and that is meant as a compliment here. Their pace is about 65.9 possessions, sitting in the bottom third nationally, and they are comfortable in that lane. For a road underdog catching a big number, that kind of style is exactly what you want. They drag games into the mud, they chew clock, and they try to turn a straightforward talent gap into something more like a tiring climb up a steep wall. You can almost feel coaches on the favorites' side getting annoyed by the 3rd or 4th empty possession in a row. Penn is only a tick faster at around 67.4 possessions, so this is not a frantic, run-and-gun team either. That would be fine if they were locking people up on the other end, but the defense has been leaking points. Opponents are almost matching them from the field and scoring over 78 points per night. So you have a modest tempo, a defense that gives up plenty, and a favorite being asked to win by a decent margin. Honestly, that combination usually makes bettors a little nervous. Now, if you look at recent trend data, the spread case for Penn gets even shakier. They are just 3-7 against the spread in their last 10 games as a favorite, which suggests that the market often prices them a bit too generously when they are expected to control a game. Lafayette, on the other hand, has been repeatedly feisty in this head-to-head series, covering the number in both meetings over the last 2 seasons. That is not some magic angle, but it does match the broader idea of Lafayette as the team that hangs around longer than you want them to. The health report adds another small piece. Penn shows no listed injuries on major public reports, so what you see in their recent box scores is pretty much what you are getting now. Lafayette's own game notes point out that freshman guard Beckett Curry is out for the season and Joshua Waichi is sidelined indefinitely, but those absences are already baked into how their current rotation functions. Broader betting injury trackers even list no injuries for the Leopards, which tells you the market is not really adjusting numbers for either of those names at this point. What is getting priced is Penn's program name, that home court, and the shiny early season 119-point eruption against Division III Rowan, not the more recent reality of this team getting pushed around by stronger opposition. Put all of that together and you get a familiar December setup. The home favorite looks a little too inflated. The road underdog's schedule has quietly made them tougher than their record suggests, and the numbers whisper that the game is far more likely to be much closer than you think than a comfy blowout. As our first pick for this matchup, the Lafayette Leopards to cover the spread as underdogs is our full game side pick. Lafayette's entire basketball personality so far has leaned toward being the opposite of a track meet. They average 69.3 points scored and 75.0 allowed, shooting about 40.7% from the field. Their tempo sits in the high 60s at most, with that 65.9 possession pace ranking near the bottom quarter of the country. When they win, it often looks like that Ball State result, 55-37, the kind of scoreline that could make an old school coach from the 90s smile and nod approvingly at the defense and the patience. Penn certainly has more offensive pop, living in that roughly 79 to 82 points per game range depending on what cutoff you use. But here is the thing, context matters a lot. That headline 119-point explosion came against Division III Rowan, which inflates the averages and the perception. When you zoom in on their last two Division I tests, you see only 60 points against Hofstra and 63 against Villanova. That looks like a team whose scoring output moves around with opponent quality and game script rather than something that just bulldozes totals on its own. They shoot the three extremely well, over 41% from deep, so the idea of a hot shooting night is always lurking. Still, Lafayette's defensive profile is quietly structured to live with those jumpers and cut off the easier looks. Opponents have been shooting better inside the arc than outside against them, and the Leopards are perfectly content to walk the ball up, run their stuff, and challenge you to keep making jump shots for 40 minutes. That kind of approach tightens the game, limits extra possessions, and usually keeps scoring runs from snowballing into true fireworks. If you check the trend side for totals, the signals lean lower as well. Penn has gone under in 5 of its last 6 games overall and in 4 of its last 5 at home. Lafayette's overall overcount for the season is influenced by some earlier, faster matchups and a few defensive blowups, not by the kind of deliberate, slower style they lean into when they are a focused road underdog in a competitive spot like this. So the raw trend numbers line up with the stylistic story rather than fighting it. Layer on exam week distractions, short rest for Penn coming off that rough Villanova result, and Lafayette's clear motivation to slow the tempo, and you get a picture that points toward a more grind-heavy game. Something landing in the mid-140s feels more realistic than a full-on shootout pushing well into the 150s. If this turns into a half-court tug of war, which the matchup and the numbers both support, then the current total sits high enough to provide meaningful cushion against random late free throws or a brief hot streak that might otherwise scare you. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. Southern versus Texas. Texas walks into this spot in a foul mood, and Southern just happens to be the poor team standing in front of them. You can feel why. A few nights ago, they did not just lose to Virginia at home. They got blasted in a game their own coach had publicly labeled a moment of truth, and national writers are already tossing out crossroads language for this next one. That kind of public framing sticks to a locker room. It lingers in the way the crowd reacts when the first shot rims out, and it usually nudges a veteran roster toward a very simple goal, which is to hit the next opponent as hard as possible. Now that next opponent is a Southwestern Athletic Conference team that has already been run off the floor by Arkansas by 32 and Marquette by 18 on the road. Southern's 4 wins have all come against the kind of low major or bye-game opponents you usually see in November box scores. Programs like Ecclesia, Champion Christian, Northwestern State, and Louisiana Christian. There is nothing wrong with that schedule for a league like the Southwestern Athletic Conference. It is basically the financial engine for the season, but it does matter when you try to project how they will handle a physically mature high major team on the road. On paper, Texas is built to bully exactly this kind of matchup. They sit at 6-3, scoring 88.4 points per night, and they are ripping down 43 rebounds a game while doing it. They have out-rebounded every opponent so far with a plus 12.7 margin, which is the sort of number that usually tells you the talent gap in the front court is real, not just noise from one hot shooting night. Layer on the fact that they have gone 29-2 in non-conference home games since moving into the Moody Center, and you get a sense of how often visitors leave that building feeling outclassed. Southern, to their credit, does not usually show up timid. They play with real courage and pace, and that "we will run with anybody" personality is fun for neutral fans. It also cuts both ways. They are averaging 92.3 points on nearly 50% shooting, which is impressive, but they are allowing 78 per game and have already been dragged into 100-82 and 109-77 track meets by top 25 teams. That is the trade-off when your entire offensive identity leans into speed and early clock threes. The variance is high, and when the talent math tilts against you, the score can get sideways in a hurry. Here is the thing: Texas has the exact tools that tend to punish that style. They have the size to swallow Southern's work on the glass, which means all those quick jumpers from deep are more likely to turn into one-and-done trips. They have the depth to keep throwing fresh legs at Michael Jacobs, who is indeed Southern's leading scorer at 22.3 a night, and is confirmed on the active 2025-2026 roster, and they have that extra bit of emotional fuel after being embarrassed on national TV. A tired favorite sometimes lets a smaller opponent hang around. A wounded favorite that just got booed at home usually does the opposite. On the other bench, Texas's primary rotation is also confirmed on the current roster, including wing scorer Dalen Swain, so you are not guessing about who is actually available. As of today's injury reports, both teams are listed with no active injuries, which means you are handicapping a clean matchup. Full-strength versions on each side rather than the usual early-season guessing game about minutes limits and late scratches. That alone removes some of the chaos you often worry about when a big number is involved. Put that together with a 22.5-point spread, a home crowd that recently booed its own team off the floor against Virginia, and a favorite that has a long track record of bullying non-conference visitors, and you can see why this spot gets labeled a classic. Get right in a hurry night. It is not that Southern cannot score. They clearly can. It is that the particular combination of Texas's size, depth, motivation, and home environment tilts the path of least resistance toward a margin that drifts into the high 20s or worse by the final horn if the Longhorns stay locked in for most of the 40 minutes. As our first pick for this matchup, the Texas Longhorns to cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. Odds makers have hung a big total number at around 155.5, and at first glance, it almost looks like a typo. It feels high until you stop and think about what these two teams actually do for a living. Texas scores like a high major that has embraced modern spacing and pace, sitting close to 90 points a night, but they are not exactly a defensive rock right now. They are giving up 73.7 points per game and just surrendered 88 at home to Virginia, which is not a program that most people associate with pinball scores. When a defense allows that sort of outlier at home to a methodical opponent, it is at least a hint that tempo can get away from them in the right context. Southern shows up like that one friend who only owns the gas pedal. They are at 92.3 points per game, pulling down 40 rebounds, shooting 50% from the field, and they are perfectly happy to fire threes early in the clock. When they step up in class, they do not slow down. They simply leak more points on the other end. The track record is already there: 109 allowed at Arkansas, 100 at Marquette, 99 in double overtime at Washington. You do not have to be a modeler with a giant spreadsheet to see the pattern. Whenever they share a floor with high major athletes, the game score tends to swell. That style is basically catnip for a favorite with Texas's profile. They are coming off that Virginia loss wanting a confidence game. Their coach has talked openly about needing better effort and connectivity, and one of the easiest ways for a roster to feel good again is to run the offense with freedom in front of a friendly crowd and keep the throttle open deep into the bench. You can almost script it. The starters play with intent. The second unit pushes just as hard because minutes are on the line, and the possession count stacks up. Of course, there is always the classic blowout risk where the underdog runs out of gas, the scoreboard gap stretches, and the last 4 minutes turn into a mix of walk-ons, layups, and dribbled-out possessions. That is the speculative part you always sweat when a huge favorite is involved in a lofty total. If the game completely breaks, the scoring curve can flatten in a hurry. The flip side here, and it matters, is Southern's history of shooting to the buzzer and Texas's depth. Southern has already given up 80 or more in 6 of 8 games, which tells you their opponents keep scoring even when the script goes sideways. Texas, meanwhile, has enough quality down the roster that the so-called garbage time lineup can still put up points against a defense that is already proven to be leaky. With both squads fully staffed per today's injury reports, a spread sitting north of 20 that hints at real talent separation, and 2 offenses that would much rather race than wrestle in the half court, this matchup profiles far more as a fireworks show than a grinded-out clinic. The tempo expectation, the shot profile, and the recent scoring history for both sides point in the same rough direction, a game where the scoreboard stays busy for most of the night rather than trading empty trips. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. That's all for now, so if you have any other games you would like reviewed, then leave a comment down below with the game you would like analyzed, subscribe to our channel, leave a like on this video, and we'll get to it as soon as we possibly can. We would also love to hear your opinion on the picks presented to you in this video, whether you agree or disagree with them, so leave a comment down below and do let us know.